The ego is the system that runs your sense of self. It is made out of thought patterns, emotions, and behavioral loops, and the stories that try to hold it all together. Left unchecked, it creates endless existential searching, chronic disconnection, and the persistent sense that something is wrong. The goal of my videos is clarity, to see your identity and its contradictions for what they are, named precisely, to finally understand what it is that we're all running away from. When you deconstruct your own psychological makeup, you might end up in a place of cosmic claustrophobia. It might be difficult to relate for most people to what I mean when I say cosmic claustrophobia, and for many this might be strongly related to a philosophical sense of nihilism or existentialism, and they certainly are very much interconnected, but I'm talking about a deeper sense than that. Because there comes a point where you deconstruct your own sense of identity so much that your own rendering engine of your own 3D world simulation, or to just be not fancy about it, your own life, your own awareness, your own experience of your own personhood starts to unravel. And then what you see is a vast, infinite universe in front of you. A universe so vast and so gigantic that for the first time you see how small you truly are and how insignificant you are in the grand scheme of things. And ironically enough, instead of expanding into the sense of awareness, the ego retreats and it feels scared and it wants to protect itself from the infinite possibility that it has now seen in, space. And then there comes the sense that there's no possible way you could escape from this existence. How could you escape if, no matter where you look in time and space, everything is just expanding and you keep being this finite little self? So then from the perspective of the finite little self, it is trapped. It is trapped in its own limitation, in its own perspective, in its own worldview. Now, the desire is to keep deconstructing the self-view, which is the view you have of your own sense of identity in relationship to this infinity. And the more you deconstruct it, the more you start to see how much of your own identity has been a construction. And by deconstructing it, you start to feel smaller and less significant and less meaningful and more isolated in the grand scheme of things until you break through and find the infinity within. This sounds all quite magical, doesn't it? But from a very direct empirical perspective, you can access this infinity within right now. Because what I'm talking is not some magical process where all of a sudden consciousness shifts into some sort of, godhood or whatever. What I'm actually talking about is just how experience organizes itself every single microsecond of your life. And what happens is that the egoic identity filter kind of obfuscates and confuses reality with its own identity filters. And if you take some time and are in silence, you're meditating, are in an exotic state of consciousness, or if you look at the outside world in peace and contentment, then you can find glimpses of this. And underneath this glimpse, there's a desire to feel safe inside infinity, to be vast and human at the same time, and to be able to not fall into this existential panic that needs to change what is obviously the case. And this is the wisdom that guides people to this psychological work and to the spiritual work, because there is a sense that there must be a way that I can cohere and integrate the infinity within my finite self, especially if so many people out there can be happy without having to do any of this work, and they don't wonder about the nature of truth, and they don't wonder about the nature of existence, and they just can, get up, live their life, and not worry about the stuff. Then there must be something about people who seek truth that is almost kind of, I don't want to say sick, but there's something that the mind figures out that is not normal. And from one perspective, it is everyone else who's sick, because how can people just take everything at face value? How can people not question why they exist? How do they just take the universe for granted? How are they not worried about death all the time? And on the other side, it feels like you are sick yourself, because why can you not just live your life and enjoy yourself? Why do you feel so overwhelmed by this sense of cosmic anxiety that, yeah, something needs to be solved or fixed? And then it really depends on, yeah, what perspective you take. But it is true that the current architecture of human culture is pretty sick. The ego is a system that lies. That's in its nature, because it needs to find distance between the infinite, vast, expanded universe and its own personal, small, finite self. So in order to do so, it kind of has to filter out, yeah, basically most of the universe, right? Like, imagine how much information you would have to process if you were to process everything that is going on just in your own country and then scale it to the planet, scale it to other planets, scale it to the entire universe, scale it to the multiverse, scale it to DMT spaces. It is incomprehensible how big reality actually is. And when you deconstruct your own psychological identity, you rip apart this differentiation that says, I am my reality and all the other realities, they are kind of outside of me and they don't really matter much. And suddenly you deconstruct the internal identity, and suddenly it's like, wait a minute. There's nothing that truly contains me to my finite self. Everything is infinitely interconnected, and therefore I'm kinda everybody, or I am also no one at all. The sense of claustrophobia comes in when you have deconstructed your identity to the extent you see how vast everything is, but not to the extent that your sense of attachment to yourself actually has dissolved. So in a way, you're making it worse before it gets better, because everything is expanding. You are increasing your sense of awareness. Your sense of ego might actually be dissolving in a meaningful way, but you become smaller and everything else becomes bigger. So you have reduced space to express yourself in that sense, because the ego has expressed itself all the time by asserting control, exerting dominance, proving that it's worthy, proving that it knows stuff, that it's intelligent, that it is wise. And now, looking at the infinite, if it's like, do I actually know anything at all? Do I have any value? Is meaning real in any way or form? So the contrast makes it so incredibly tense. And yeah, tense is an understatement, really, because you might really feel like you are under infinite pressure, and that what you have to accept about the nature of existence is so much beyond what a normal human should be able to deal with. And yeah, I find that a lot of this stuff gets kind of lost in spiritual jargon and psychologically, clinical frameworks are also always trying to make people not feel crazy and ground them all the time. But I don't find it very helpful to notice the vastness of the universe and consciousness in your own field expanding, and noticing how much there is actually to perceive and notice. And then the outside world, who is not into this psychological stuff, they kind of instinctively want to like contain you and not make you expand further, because it's just too crazy or it's too intense for most people. Which, understandably so, right? You're deconstructing all the cultural and societal programming that runs underneath it. And it is very helpful to have a sort of network or relationship for people who understand that this stuff is like the real deal and not a joke at all, and still don't fall into mysterious superstition and scientific ungroundedness. And I really love providing this for people and giving a space for this, both on my YouTube channel and both on the place that I'm building. The very incredible thing here is that the way out of this is all the way through. Because the moment you expand to infinity, you become a point again. So if you really reach everything that is possible in your sense of awareness, at least this is how the perception is like. I wouldn't actually claim that you truly expand infinitely, because as a physical body, you would die, right? But at least in your psyche, your conscious awareness field has like no real end to it. Like if you are perceiving this moment in your awareness right now, you can become directly aware of infinity, because the moment of now has not really a beginning or end. It is just there, and you're always in this now. And if you look at your visual field, where is the end of your visual field? Like you might say it's kind of like around here, right, where your peripheral stops working, but it's not like your awareness stops existing the moment something's outside of your vision. Like you still sense its presence. So there's a sort of panoramic awareness going on all the time, also beyond your visual field, where you sense the muscles of your back, and you sense the top of your head, and you sense the inside of your body. And the moment you start to notice how much of your sensations are cohering all the time, you start to feel like, okay, yeah, so this infinity thing is actually not this weird thing that is expanding outwards in which I am trapped in, but I am the literal embodiment of it. So I am infinite. And this is where things get liberating, because now you're not claustrophobically trapped into this sense of suffocation, but no, you are as powerful as the infinite. And this can get dangerous when people see it, because their ego takes this as the new identity, right? Like, oh, I am infinite, I am consciousness, I am God. And the difficult thing about these claims is that in a certain way they are true, depending on how you define things, of course, right? So that's the semantic game that can always be played, because on one hand, of course, you're not like a being with infinite power in this local configuration, but hey, if the universe made everything happen and you are part of the universe and you're here now, and look how much information you can process every little second, yeah, you're pretty much part of all of it, right? So the ontological compression mechanism that is happening here is that all the different things that you can know, like ontologically, like just the nature of being, become kind of compressed into your local experience. So instead of needing to know the existential truth of the universe as some magical thing that you have to find outside of your body and mind, you become aware of the fact that it is actually inside of your body and mind. It is not something that is difficult to access or impossible to access, because it is right in front of you. So the identity, disidentification, the configuration of your psyche is basically limiting you from this direct access. And this direct access oftentimes also gives you a sense of fear and the sense of claustrophobia, which actually makes people retreat into their shell and cause the sense of fear or cosmic claustrophobia, because you're resisting your own power. You're not fully expanding into the thing, because you kind of understand that if you do, it's kind of the end of you. And when I say the end of you, I don't mean your physical body, like you're going to survive, but the entire identity structure then does cease to exist. It then has nothing to push against anymore, and it kind of exists as a sort of transparent mechanism. Because that's also kind of like where people get their knuckles in a twist, because they have this image of like enlightenment as something that you can achieve, that once you are there, you kind of have access to some magical thing that makes everything just perfect. And the difficult thing to talk about words like enlightenment is because it comes with so much baggage, right? There's so much that people try to project, or the moment you say the word, like am I enlightened? Why am I saying the word? Do I know about the stuff? So there's so much that comes with it that it's often best to avoid the word in the first place. But that's why on my Substack I want to be able to be a bit more direct about this stuff, because on YouTube the audience sometimes is a bit too wide. But since I brought up the word, the enlightened part, I don't really see it as like something you gain, like some sort of thing you attain, but I see it as a general direction. And I like to call what I do analytical. So I don't see it as something that you get, but the direction you move towards. And it is fueled by honest truth seeking, self reflection, feeling, investigation, curiosity, open mindedness, sincerity, compassion. All of these aspects, they move you towards the state of internal wholeness. And I prefer to just call it internal wholeness, acceptance, freedom, happiness, human body life, equilibrium, like dynamic equilibrium is also an amazing way to put it. So all of these different ways to frame this like sort of mechanism is really just about your own psychological health. it might feel like so much more grandiose and cosmical because, I mean, we are interacting with an infinite universe. The universe is immensely complex. Our sense of identity is what makes a big part of us. So whenever there's a shift in this happening, then of course it feels like, oh, wow, I'm becoming, like I am awakening to the truth, or wow, this life feels so meaningful because it is meaningful. It is true. That's what's so incredible about it. You cannot dismiss it. You cannot pretend it doesn't exist. I mean, you can try, but it will always be a delusion. No matter how much you call it an illusion, no matter how much you call it a hallucination of the mind, no matter how you say you can never access true reality, at the end of the day, the reason we call all of this stuff real is because we are involved within it. And we are enmeshed within it, and we cannot separate ourselves from it. And a big part of these experiences where you see what is truth, it isn't this like magical, mystical, hidden thing, but it is piercing through your past conditionings, piercing through your established reality models, and notice everywhere you are not fully sincere, fully honest, fully introspective, fully open with everything that is going on around you. And then the natural consequence of seeing how much also pain is trying to be hidden, how much deception is trying to be hidden, how much you care actually about your sense of identity, all of this stuff reveals to you how expansive existence actually is and how much it has the ability to deceive, because your internal perspective makes it so that whatever you see as meaningful becomes true to you. So if you have like the experience that it is meaningful to play a video game, for example, then this entire like video game experience in a way is already an illusion, right? Like you are not actually interacting with the real world, but pretending as if and enjoying it as if. The same with like fictional media, right? Like if you watch a movie. But this is also true for all of human life, because no matter where we look, your brain kind of generates its own meaning. And a lot of this meaning that the brain generates or that the ego generates causes suffering, and it causes discomfort with existence because it is protecting the identity mechanism in order to not dissolve, in order to not expand, in order to feel it is trapped. And a lot of meaning making is to reinforce the sense of trappedness. And the beauty happens when you're able to hold both sides of the coin. Yes, the movie isn't really real. It is a projection of the mind. I am sort of interacting with an interface of a bunch of different conditions that is making me, be the thing. And at the same time, I live things fully, like 100%. There's no like 50 or 30 or 20%. No, you are always 100% in it, and it doesn't matter which experience it is. They're always 100% real. And this is why the only way out of this sense of suffocation with infinite existence is to not become small, keep expanding, be curious, see what is available to you, see what is available in your own life, like what can you actually do that would fulfill you, expand your sense of feeling, expand your sense of love for the tiniest things that you can experience, keep deconstructing your psychology, move through the end, and then you find a sort of that is undescribably beautiful.